I'll just start by saying my name is Morna Gerard. I am interviewing Marie-Antoinette Tichler. The date is April 17th, 2017. We're at Georgia State University in Special Collections, and we're doing this interview for the Women's March Oral History Interview Project, Oral History Project. So I'm going to start with some really easy questions just to sort of figure out who you are and when you were born, stuff like that. So if you can tell me the year that you were born and where you were born.
I was born in 1971 in Athens, Georgia.
And can you describe your parents' or your family's political leanings?
Well, I think my family is mostly Democrat. We don't really talk about politics in my family, if you will. They don't follow it on television. They just go and vote, and I can almost say we're mostly Democrat.
Okay. Were you ever aware of them participating in any activities?
Absolutely not. They participate in church.
Okay.
I have a very religious family. My middle brother, he started preaching when he was 14. My dad is chairman of the deacon board. He's been chairman for 40 years. He's best friends with the pastor. So a lot of my activities, even growing up, were all surrounded around church.
Okay. What is your profession now?
I am a nonprofit founder. I have a nonprofit organization called TOAD, the Technology Organization Against Destructive Deeds. And I've been educating the youth about using technology responsibly for about a decade. So I go into elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools and talk to them about protecting their digital legacy and how important it is, and things that they put on Facebook in the 5th grade may follow them for the rest of their lives, and how they can go to jail posting inappropriate pictures and making terrorist threats and things like that. And I love it. I've been doing it for a while.
What made you start doing that?
My children, my kids. My son started driving around the age of true technology, which is the iPhone. The iPhone came out in 2009, and that was the first real opportunity for children to do things like text and drive. And my true story to why I started the organization is one day I was jogging in my neighborhood. We have a really nice pool, lake, tennis community neighborhood, and I bought my spoiled son his first car, and I'm thinking I'm going to outsmart him and buy him a stick shift, so if he's driving a stick, then his hands are busy. Well, I jogged past him in his car with 3 friends, and he was texting with his hand, driving with his knee, and changing the gears with his other hand. And it almost felt like a lightning bolt hit my body. I literally chased the car back to the house. I mean, because to him, he just, hi, Mom, and he's going on about his life. And me, I'm like, he could kill himself and those other children in the car. He could have ran over me. So I literally went home, fussed at him and his friends, went to sleep that night, and I dreamed about Miss Toad and dreamed about the organization, and I got started on it. By, I'll say maybe 3 weeks later, I was at my first event talking to kids about using, and I had both of my children there, because I'm saying to him, you almost killed your mama and your friends, not even realizing it. So if you were doing this, and I consider myself smart because I'm thinking about things like this, how many other children are doing this? And so that became like our pledge to life, for them to help me teach other kids how dangerous technology can be. And then my daughter, when she was in middle school, there was a bout of kids sending new pictures out. They had a little new picture ring, if you will, and the police had to end up being called in, and I extended then things to talk about sexting and cyberbullying. And so that's how we kind of got to where we are, where it's the digital legacy, protecting their digital legacy at that age, because most kids get a cell phone by the time they're 8 years old. So from 8 until you decide to run for president at 38, we got 30 years to protect.
So you go into school, is it mostly schools you go to?
Schools.
And are the school districts happy to...
Oh my God, yes. A part of what I would like to do, and I'm going to focus on that, I actually had Emory to evaluate my program, so that could help me when it comes to getting sponsors and things like that. and they gave me a A+. I was really excited. They gave me some other ideas where I could extend it from just one person with a program to do something nationwide. And so I've been working on the transition of that, and that's basically turning our mascot, who her name is Miss Toad. Oh, I left my children. I have children's books too, and her name is Miss Toad. I want to make a real live mascot of Miss Toad, like Smokey the Bear, and let her then be that face for saying to kids, use your technology responsibly. And then have her as the program going into the schools, have songs and things like that. Because I kind of know how to do it, but I'd have to, I'd need more than just me to make it happen.
So I guess your kids are very technology savvy?
Yes, technologically savvy. They definitely are, yep. My son, he lives in Puerto Rico. He speaks 3 languages. He actually wrote a book called Anywhere in 1 Year for young people that want to travel. He went to Georgia State. This is his alma mater. This is where he graduated from, in journalism and communications, and a minor in French and Spanish. But even for him, he has an online business. He talks to kids, children his age, young adults, about doing things like that, using technology so you can live wherever you want to live if you have an online business. You can kind of fit your lifestyle into your life, if you will. So he is... That's, I guess, his mission, one of the things that he's passionate about. And then my daughter, on the other hand, she's a fashionista. She has an online website where she teaches people how to put on makeup, and she does hair, and she can sew anything she sees. And her dream is to one day have her own lifestyle brand. And so through seeing me, they kind of see, how you can do things like be a stay-at-home mom and still serve the community, or be a stay-at-home mom and help other people to have a better life.
That's great. You taught them well. And you're married?
Yes, I'm married. My husband is Stephen Tichler. I call him Stevie.
And what does he do?
He is a vice president at SunTrust Bank. He's a numbers guy. He loves numbers.
It's good to have one of those in the household.
Oh yes, very good. Yeah, and he's the yin to my yang. I'm like high energy, and he's more like just tell me how it works.
What political party do you support?
I'm a Democrat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Stevie a Democrat as well?
Well, oddly enough, his first time voting as a Democrat was for President Obama.
And why did he decide to vote for Obama?
He felt like Obama. He still even says it to this day. Obama's going to go down in history as the best president we've ever had. His entire family says that. Even when they say it, sometimes I have to do a double take because all of them were Republicans, every last one of them, and they all voted for Obama.
Are they Republicans still today?
Well, they voted independent this time because they hated Hillary. So, and they definitely hate Donald Trump.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's been very interesting for people who are, you're the sort of traditional Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's been, I would love to talk to some of them because I think it's been a real challenge
For them,
out
yes.
where they are.
I think that's a part of how Hillary won. The traditional Republicans, they just voted independent. Yeah. That's why it was so. Had it only been a binary choice, Hillary would have won. Yeah.
Yeah. So have you participated before all of the activities this year in 2017? Have you participated in other activist activities?
Never. My first job was the military, so I couldn't. And then I got out of the military. I was in the military for 10 years. And when I got out of the military, my husband then, and I moved back to Atlanta, and he was making 6 figures. We had a great life. We travel. We had friends that travel. In our minds, our money wasn't being affected, so that was their problem. And that's kind of like how I lived. I lived in that bubble. I'm not ashamed to say it. That's the truth. I'm taking my kids to exotic destinations, which is why my son doesn't live in America now. So me having the opportunity, and then I was a stay-at-home mom on top of that. I've always done things like feed the homeless. I was my daughter's cheerleading coach. So I've always been community-minded. But what I wasn't, and now I realize that, is I wasn't civic-minded. And now I'm civic-minded. I understand that civic duties are just as important as community service.
Which branch of the military were you?
Air Force.
Okay.
The best.
And what did you do?
I worked in hospital, healthcare administration.
So what changed things?
The election, and I mean the election changed everything for me. Leading up to the election, I wrote a book. That's why I wrote a book about feminism. I was really thinking that this was going to be the change that we needed as humans. And because I used to say, my running joke was, any old white woman to do. That was my running joke, because a woman being in charge then would give people the time to realize that the world won't blow up. You know what I mean? We're not going to turn into zombies. You know what I'm saying? We're going to be okay, the same. And so that's what I was thinking was going to be, even just in doing the math. It had been 240 years since the last, I mean, you know, when you're writing a book, you do a lot of research. So I'm thinking, like, this has got to be the time. So when it did not happen, it was so disappointing. I literally cried all night. I mean, my husband he was like, and our joke, but he's rubbed my back and he's like, babe, you know I'm white. I won't let anybody mess with you and your family. Like, it's gonna be okay. You know, he's like, you didn't even cry this hard when your grandma died. Like, but I was so disappointed. And my second point, I was so disappointed because I was telling him that it almost felt more like a slap in the face, because I have been that woman who has a bachelor's degree in healthcare management, 10 years of experience. I managed doctor's offices, and I went to go get this dream job, and a guy got the job who was less qualified. I've been in that position before. So, I mean, to me, that was like the second part of my pain, like the whole, you know, what are we going to do as women now? So I literally cried all night. And my in-laws, my sister-in-law, she's white. She was the one who basically was like, I've been doing some research, Marie. Guess what? A women's march is coming up 2 days after. I think I still have the text on my phone. I saved it. And so, I mean, they all knew how heartbroken I was. And not just because Hillary was a woman in the sense that I wanted a woman to win for the world to change, but just for the fact that my whole argument was, what about skills? You know, because even to my white family, who I knew were not going to vote for Trump, but they were thinking more independent. It's like, what about skills? Don't you want somebody who knows what they're doing? Would you get a doctor that has no experience and be like, I'm going to operate on you today. Hey, I've never done it before, but give me a try. I'm going to shake it up in there, you know. So they knew how passionate my position was, if you will. So my sister-in-law sent me a text 2 days later, and she's like, Marie, I've been doing some research. I got good news. There's going to be this women's march, and it was initially called the Million Women's March. And I said, they can't do a Million Women's March because I said it's going to be in Philadelphia. She's like, I don't know. I just heard about it. So I immediately started contacting people. And then when the drama started with the Million Women, I'm saying to myself, why would they even do it that way? Because we as women already have problems.
Yeah.
But then when they made it right, meaning they changed the name, they partnered with the Million Women's March, I felt much better about it then, because I felt like, well, this is what we needed. You know, sometimes when you don't get what you want, you really get a gift. Yeah. And so I said, okay, so this is going to be our gift. And I 100% threw myself in. I'm like, what do I need to do? I contacted the Lindsay. Have you spoken to Lindsay?
Not yet.
Yeah. Well, Lindsay, she was our coordinator here. I literally sent her a message and said, I want to help. You know, let me know what to do. And I gave her my phone number, and she called me, and she's like, well, I'm not really sure. We have a lot of women doing this. And I'm like, well, the first thing we're going to need is a bank account, because we're going to need money. So I gave her, I'm like, I'm going to send you $100 through Western Union today. Go and open a bank account this week. So and once we did that, I mean, we were kind of off to the races then. Then we could separate and go do our things. And so her losing was the catapult to really changing my life.
That's great. There are lots of silver linings, I think, that have come out of all of this.
I think so, too.
So why did you choose the Atlanta March to become involved with?
I helped to send women to D.C.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a part of the group that were sending women to D.C. to march. And we, the Atlanta March it was a couple of different groups that started marches, and we were a part of that. No, just let one group do it, because the Pantsuit Nation, it was a few different groups that were going to try to handle it. But in all essence, we were a push for that. We should only have two. We should have one that's going to D.C. and one that's here in Georgia, and we filter through each other. And so I was a part of that group. We sent 22 buses. The airlines were sold out. The trains were sold out. I mean, we really did a good job.
How did you talk about the logistics of this? What were you doing? And it was a massive undertaking.
Massive undertaking.
So how did you make this work?
A large part of it was social media, and we used apps like Slack. Have you heard of Slack? We used work sharing apps like those, like Slack. We broke down into committees, and each committee had duties. I was a business outreach coordinator, so it was my job to reach out to businesses, to bring them in, to let their employees know, and to raise money, because we raised enough to give free tickets to go. But we literally handled everything through Slack, Facebook, and conference calls.
That's so modern.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's
I think
we changed.
We had maybe each group could meet if they wanted to, but the face-to-face meetings were only so we could chat about our kids, and because half the time that's what we end up doing, being women, chatting. But the majority of the work was really just done online.
So you were raising money. Who was donating the money?
Just individuals.
Okay.
We had more donations from individuals than we did from corporations. This is what's funny. Companies didn't even believe that it was real. Companies did not buy on until, I'll say, maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks. Even the news media didn't buy on until, I'll say, the last 2 weeks. And that is once we were showing them things like, look at how many people are going. And I think once DC was able to secure the permit, that kind of made it real. But until the permit was secured, and until they even had major players, which were more organizations than companies, like the Democratic Women, those type organizations, the political organizations, and more awareness type organizations. Women's awareness groups, things like Planned Parenthood, things like those organizations. When those type organizations begin to really partner with us, it's not until it was even taken serious.
So were there specific businesses at the end there who did come on?
State Farm.
Okay.
They did. Who else? State Farm was a major player. We had no major corporations. I'll just say that, because even the State Farms, it was the local ones. We got a few of the local. Was it Domino's? I think Domino's Pizza. We got a few of those. The farmers market. They were major sponsors. Who? Trying to think. That was really it. It was surprising.
How many women were you able to send, with free, like a free pass?
Free, kind of thing? We sent 100 free, which was 2 buses.
That's amazing.
And then, but we sent 20 buses. Oh, and we used Skedaddle. Have you heard of Skedaddle?
Talk about Skedaddle.
Skedaddle is a bus company that you can start a route from anywhere. And if 8 people buy tickets on this route, you start from anywhere, then it'll be a real route that they'll post online. So once it's posted online, then anybody can buy the tickets. So, and Rally is another bus service like that. So those type bus services, those are our major hitters. Being able to just say, hey, you're in Rome at 123 address so-and-so, we'll have a bus route leaving right from your area.
Wow.
And so that's a lot of how we had 6 buses leave from Midtown. We had 1 from Rome, 4 from Athens, I think 2 from Savannah. I mean, we broke it down by districts too. We had committees in each district, so that way per district you were getting the word out. And for me, when it came to our planning, we did things online, but when it came to getting the word out, we literally passed out flyers, our spots for flyers, and I guess we could probably call them supporters. Every Waffle House, they were happy to, see us, bring the flyers up. And we know a couple of the Waffle Houses would tell people about it. Every, what's the girl? Ingalls kind of quasi support us. They would let us put our flyers up. A lot of mom and pop, like barbershops, beauty salons, hot food, hot wing places, a couple of the malls, we were able to put so we were then able, Walmart wouldn't. So we will say that. Walmart said, no, you cannot put your flyers on our door or have someone in our parking lot passing them out. They were definitely against it. But other than that, we were able to do, just grassroots things, because that's really how it works. Hand to hand, face to face, smile to smile.
When people, I don't know if you were able to sort of see this, like how all this came together, but were you able to track who was coming on the buses? Was it like single people, or was it friends together, or was it groups together? I mean, how?
We weren't able to track that, but what I will say is most people did at least bring a friend.
Okay.
And so it was very few one singular person. It was either groups, or they were groups of people or friends that turned into a group.
So now these were the buses that had captains.
Yes.
How did you select the captains, or did they self-select?
Self-select. We sent out an email that said we need bus captains, and most of our bus captains, all of our bus captains, with the exception of maybe one or two, stood up and said, "I'll do it."
And did they have any kind of extra, not training, but like just guidance?
No, nobody had training on any of this. All we had was passion and intuition, okay? And the will to make it happen. There was no training, but most of us are parents. Yeah. You get training to do almost everything when you have a kid, or you take care of somebody's kid. You ain't even got to be your own. You babysit long enough, you get training, because they're terrorists. Yeah. And you have to win.
Well, and that's the beauty of women doing
yes. There was no training involved. It was like, hey, I got to herd these cats. Come on here, cats.
So did you go to the march here, or did
you
went up to
DC? I was in DC.
So did you go on one of the buses, or how did you get there?
Because I was an organizer, I wanted to get there early.
Okay. So
me and my best friend, we went up on Thursday.
How did you get there?
We drove. Yeah, we drove.
And where did you stay?
At right in the middle of. I was literally like a mile away from. I got my hotel before I got anything else, because I wanted to be in walking distance. I wanted to be able to leave the march and walk to my hotel. I think we were at the Marriott downtown.
When you were at the hotel, did you see a lot of other women?
Oh God, yes. A bus pulled up. A full bus of pink hats pulled up. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm from Georgia. Where are you guys from? My sisters! anytime I even wear it was hot, it's hot now, but anytime I wore my hat and somebody recognized me, we would come and hug. And I think that is the beauty of, one, women organizing. Because when men organize things, you never see a group hug. You're not going to see a group hug. You might see some high fives, but you're not going to see a group hug. So we bond in a special way. And that is a lot of, to me, why I feel like that was a special sauce. We bonded well before we even got to DC. So we got to DC talking about why it's so important to bond. And a lot of women just got to DC like, oh my goodness, wow, this is magnificent. And they met other women that said that why they were so excited to be there, and they had the opportunity to bond. And I think that is why that's going to go down in history so well.
Yeah. So were you walking around DC on the day of the inauguration?
No.
You stayed?
I was hanging out with my friends. I have a cousin that lives in Baltimore. No, I wasn't even studying that. Well, my best friend said I couldn't look at TV. She borrowed me from, she was like, we are here to celebrate. So she borrowed me from CNN. Yeah. And then I think we went to go eat somewhere, and I had to sit with my head back to, and I was obedient because I knew.
So because you are an organizer, did you go up there do you have tasks to do
Well,
once you got there?
When we had no idea seriously, we had no idea what we were gonna find when we got there. And even with our buses, there were 12,000 buses. We had 22 of those 12,000 buses. We could not guarantee where our bus was going to be in this 12,000, in these 12,000 buses. So we came up with a plan, and we had a pinpoint. So we're going to all meet here on our little pinpoint. So we get there, and our pinpoint was not where the majority of the march was. It was literally like another mile away. And so I did not feel like walking down there. And then I found some of my other sisters. They didn't feel like walking down there either, because the day of, it was so many people. And me and my best friend, happened to kind of just looking for the place, walk and make a turn. And we were right at the front. So I stayed, I could see the stage. I could see the TV screen. I could see. And the Georgia group ended up being like all the way at the back, because they stayed at the park waiting to congregate people. But yeah, so we were supposed to have jobs, but I think I quit mine when I got there. I made an executive decision.
So you must have gotten to the rally area pretty early.
We did. We got there. When we got there, it was I turned my phone off. But yeah, I'll send you pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, when we got there, I think we were out on the street by 6:30.
At what point, because we knew it was going to be a big march.
Yes.
At what point did you realize
how big it was?
This is really
when
big.
I got back home, when I got back to the hotel. Because I was at the front, I had no idea what was around me. It wasn't until me and my best friend got back to the hotel, and we were just, basking in the glow, and the first thing she did was turn on CNN for me. And I am like, is that what we were doing outside? She was like, yes. I mean, it wasn't, so this was 4 o'clock, at 5 o'clock in the evening. I wanted to go back outside when I was like, I want to go back out there. We did go back out maybe like 6 or 7, but people, they had all did the same things we did. They were all, you're a part of it. You feel it, and then you've been up all day. So, you got to go eat. You got to, some of that adrenaline wears off. So I think about maybe 3 to 4. I know people ended up marching, but I want to go find me some food. And then once I found food, I'm like, well, we kind of went back out. It looked like people were dispersing, but I realize now people just kind of went off on their own paths. So even though DC is huge, even though it was a lot of us there, for the ones who went to go refuel, maybe went back to the hotel, when we tried to go back and find the crowd, they had finally dispersed too.
So you're close to the stage. You've got to see all of the speakers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Which of this were there any of the speakers that really stood out to you as being like, wow, I'm so glad I'm watching this?
Well, this is a part of the learning curve. They were very good with having television screens, but not very good with speakers, physical speakers, where you can hear sound out of, I'm saying. So I could see them lip syncing. I could say, oh, that's America's. I could say, oh, that's so-and-so, but hear what they were saying, not so much. Okay. Yeah, not so much. Even though I will probably say I was close, but I was far.
Yep.
Yeah.
So did you hear any of the speeches afterwards
Literally, it was, I could hear the people around me talking.
But when you got home?
Oh, when I got, yes. Oh, yeah. I did research on it. And one of the favorite ones was the poem.
Ashley Judd?
Ashley Judd, yes. And I've actually had that poem recited. One of my friends, she learned it and she recited it for me at a couple of events. Oh. Yeah, so that was the most overwhelming thing that stood out, I'll say, Ashley Judd's. And then when I got a chance to look the girl up, not Ashley Judd saying it, because I didn't hear her, I saw her. But when I did the research on, I could, they only showed bits and pieces of it. So who is this girl? And I looked up the original girl who did the speech. That was phenomenal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one gave me goosebumps.
Oh, yeah. And then every time my friend Alexia's Branch, every time she performs it, oh, yes, it's remarkable.
So you're right in the middle of the crowd.
Right in the middle.
What was the mood of the crowd?
Oh, we were all excited. Well, I go, do you go to large concerts?
Sometimes.
Okay, I go to large concerts. So I wasn't intimidated by all the people. This is what happens at a large concert. You just need to make sure you watch where you step in, because you can't really look down. You know what I mean? Step in small steps and just go with the flow of the crowd. So me and my best friends, that's one of the things that we love, concerts. So we kind of felt like we were at a concert. So I felt at home. I felt like this is how we do. This is how we do.
Were you at all fearful of sort of protesters causing trouble or anything like that?
No, but I don't fear that anyway. I was in maybe my military training. I do believe in protecting myself, if you will, but I also feel like, things can be diffused or ignored. But if they won't be, I don't mind bringing it to you if you ask for it.
Can I come with you next time I go anywhere?
Yes, I will go to battle.
Did you see any protesters?
To me, I don't know. Even the police officers were nice. I mean, they were giving high fives, hugging people, posing for selfies. But that's always been my experience. I was, one of the things I wanted to do when the world was supposed to end, Y2K, me and my husband went to New York for New Year's. We were on the top of in the Marriott, right in Times Square. Like, if the world's gonna end, I'm right at the epicenter, baby. Like, right at the epicenter. But no, that was one of those times where people were all fearful about being outside, and the police literally lined up. I thought it was beautiful. I'm taking pictures, and they're like, Marie, get over here. Just...
If the world's going to happen.
I'm like, if the world's going to end, I want to die smiling. Seriously.
Good on you.
But yeah, so I wasn't. Protesters, if they existed, we couldn't tell.
Did you and your friend, because you were there together all day, did you have a plan in case you got separated?
We do things together. Me and my best friend, that's my homie. So we don't even have to talk about our plan. We're not afraid if we're separated, and we always know where the hotel is. So,
well, that was one of the benefits of having your hotel
exactly
close by.
And that was one of the reasons why we got our hotel close by. Anytime we do things like go to Coachella, those large, we always try to stay where we can walk, because to me that's a part of the safety. Yeah.
So did you have a pussy hat?
Yes. Oh, I should have brought my hat.
Did you knit one, or did someone knit one
for
you?
Oh, no, Mama doesn't knit.
So where did you get your pussy hat from?
A part of our fundraising for the Women's March is we had knitters. And so we had knitters that they were knitting hats. And so our group, I got mine from one of our knitting groups.
And what did you think when you look around and there's all of these pussy hats?
I thought it was remarkable. Oh my God. Remarkable. I'm hoping somebody puts a hat in a history.
We have them.
Oh, good. Oh, okay. Yes.
There were folks, right-wing folks, as well as some feminists before the march who were kind of dissing the pussy hat.
Right.
Sort of,
well, just because of the name. I mean, you're from England, so saying pussy is not bad there. I mean, it's something y'all call cats pussies. We don't say the word pussy in America, because America was created by people who were Bible thumpers. Okay? They want us to have our dresses down here and our heads covered up. So the word pussy is offensive, and that's really what it all boiled down to. I mean, I wrote a book called Coochie Power. I named the next era of women the Coochie Power era. So
it's coming.
Yes.
So you think maybe it was a very positive.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, this is what I say too. For anyone that supports a president that will say, I grab pussies, you are offended that we would call a hat a pussy. I don't care to hear that. I think that argument has no validity to me. It's like a strainer. It's got holes in it. So it doesn't work on me.
Did you take a sign with you?
I took empty stuff to make a sign because we had sign parties. So I just took I may have taken somebody else's sign too, but I didn't carry a sign. I had my megaphone and
you were prepared.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then I bought these number 1 fingers, blow up fingers. And yellow was our color for Georgia. We chose that because that's the color of the sunflower. Well, the butterfly has the yellow in it too, the state butterfly. And so we chose the color yellow so I was wanting to at least have a flag for, the people from Georgia if they saw the color yellow. But I knew I was going to need my phone finger once I decided I wasn't moving. But I think I only caught up with 2 people from Georgia.
And but you didn't have a sign, but were there any signs that there were some really amazing signs?
Oh my God,
there.
yes.
Were there any that struck you as
I took pictures of them. Yeah, I'll send you the picture. Okay. Yeah, the ones that were really offensive, those were the good ones to me. But it was a lot of them. You can't grab my pussy signs. Yeah, but the more offensive they were, the better thought out. I felt like they were.
How did you looking around? How did you see people interacting with one another?
Great. I mean, like it was a concert. If we had been able to get Beyonce to show up, then that would have topped it off. People were hugging just for you. Well, I could see the people that weren't used to being in crowds. With somebody holding their arm or making sure they were okay, or maybe the elderly or the children. You could see it was that crowd, and then it was a crowd like me, like whoa, we were screaming the whole time, and yeah. And then we scream, and somebody else screams, and then we scream back, and then.
Did you? Is there a major issue in your world that made you feel like it was imperative to be there? Is there something that you were there for?
Well, although I feel like. Well, yes. I was there for one major reason, and that's because I have a daughter myself. And I'm hoping to have granddaughters. My son and my daughter one day are going to get married and have children. And what I realize is that we are still fighting for things that the suffragettes were fighting for. And it's been 240 years. And so I'm saying, so if it's women like me who had a great life, who are like, I don't have to be involved with this because I can go shopping and go on vacation anytime I want. If we are not participating, then it's going to be our fault, or partly on our heads, that things don't change. So, just the whole Hillary not winning kind of brought all of those, those flashes of all of that to say to me that I can't complain if I'm sitting on the sidelines. And I'm really not a sideline person. So I had to.
Did you, because there was, one of the complaints was lack of intersectionality, and I think that there were great efforts to be intersectional. Mm-hmm.
You mean with the issues?
Just with issues.
Well, because I can give you some more specific examples. With our group, we had a woman of color group. We had a area group, meaning reaching out to the Romes of the world, South Georgias of the world, and the 2 issues that came up the most was the messaging. When it came to the South Georgia women, they don't have the same issues as the women of color. And so what we basically had to end up saying was, this march has to be personal. And we will come up with guidelines, but that the guidelines are going to include everything. But when it comes to your specific why you are going, that it needs to be personal. And I think there's going to be like that for all women. Because a white woman has no idea, even if she has a best friend that's black, exactly what that black woman goes through. A black woman has no idea, even if she has a Latino friend, what a woman goes through. So when it came to the messaging, I didn't get wrapped up in that. I let people who seem to be way more concerned about those type things get wrapped up in that, because my point was, we've been talking about these same things for almost 50 years. I'm sick of talking about them. So I'm about changing it. So I don't necessarily care about the messaging. That was me. Yes, equality, we can say equality, but what are we going to do about it? That was more of me. So are we going to burn something down? What are we going to do? So when it came to the messaging, some people needed to hear a reason to get involved. And to me, I thought that was ridiculous. But that was what some people needed. So I didn't get involved in that. Because I didn't need a reason, in a sense. I know because of facts. And with those facts, that it'll be another 250 years that we'll be marching about, complaining about, organizing about these same things if we don't come up with a real action plan.
Do you think the fact, though, that this was a march for women, and it is for every woman that was there, it was personal.
Yes.
And that's why that many people were there.
People came,
because
exactly.
Whatever personal reason,
yes.
There's just so much.
Exactly.
There's so much that we're sick of.
All of our experiences are different. So, and that was like when we were first, because we had flyers. Okay, so what do we put on the flyers? Our flyer ended up being very plain. And initially, I think it said something like, this is not an anti-Trump, a pro-Hillary, something like that. And we even had to take that off. Because that's Hillary and Trump were not even the reason why some women were going. And so it came to end up being why you march. That's why you need to be there. So for whatever reason, for whatever thing is affecting you, write that on your sign. And come and do a show of solidarity with us.
I think that hashtag Why I March was actually a very useful sort of like little slogan that really reinforced this, like everyone has a reason to
and it's continual. To me, it'll, even with the tax march that I helped to organize this weekend, people were there for different reasons. Some people were there because they didn't trust the administration. Some people were there for financial equality. Some people, economic equality. People were there for different reasons, and I think that's one reason why that hashtag is going to live on through March after March after March, because it does need to be personal. Mm-hmm. When you're spending your time, whether that's typing things, creating things, time away from your family, in meetings, meeting new people, because that takes time, building relationships, because that takes time, it needs to be personal.
And I think people becoming involved in the political world anyway is like, I have this sense that it has become personal to not just women, but to people,
exactly.
All people, and that's why you're seeing this outpouring of like people actually on the streets,
exactly,
helping John Ossoff,
yes,
all of that is
exactly.
like it's suddenly the political has become personal.
Exactly, exactly.
So, were you comfortable chanting? I imagine you
absolutely, absolutely.
You had your megaphone.
I had my megaphone.
Did you have any chants ready to go when you went?
Well, yes, I did. We had some written down, but my husband, he actually helped me with one. It's hey, hey, ho, ho, Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey. So that was the one. And it was funny because he helped me with that. And I wrote that down because I was a cheerleader in high school, so I've been chanting all my life. When I got there, I was saying the chant in D.C. and people, I would hear them, I would watch them listen, and then they would repeat it. And then I heard that same chant, hey, 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 ho, hey, hey, ho, Donald Trump has got to go, when they did the airport rally. I'm like, babe, listen, it caught on. Like, but yes, I came with chants.
Were there any other ones that you enjoyed?
One of the ones I like, the show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. That's one of my favorite ones.
We actually have a video of a little girl at the Atlanta March on her dad's shoulders. I think she's 6 years old, and in her little voice she's going, "Show me what democracy looks like," and the whole crowd is like
repeating after her.
To her.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
it's adorable.
yes, that one I love because it's not personal.
Yeah.
that should be something that once a year we are acknowledging that this is what democracy looks like.
Yeah. What about the media? Let's talk about, you went back to your hotel and you started watching. Were you happy with the way the media portrayed the march?
Oh God, yes, with the exception of Fox, of course. But yes. A lot of, like, Rachel Maddow, she's our secret partner. Rachel, she literally gave us her email address. I'm serious. So she is our favorite. Anybody in this movement, they're going to talk about Rachel Maddow, because she is like, send it to me and I will figure out how to get it out. So she was a supporter from day one. Yeah. Rachel Maddow.
She
still is. Yeah. I love her. Joy, AM Joy, she did really good supporting us. I'll say CNN did a really good job too, showing, and I was just looking at national news. Now, at home, my parents, they're news watchers. They were excited too. They were saying that it was on all the news channels, that they'd stop television and show the march. So I think that was a big deal for here. Yeah, for local news.
At what point did you realize, because when you went back to your hotel, you saw the marches in the States. Were you aware at that point or earlier that internationally how big it was?
We knew it was going to be international because that was a part of our conference calls. So we had weekly conference calls with national, and they would fill us in on how many groups we have so far, and so we knew that it was going to be that many people because they were participating in the conference calls.
Okay. But did you know how big the crowds were going to be?
Not necessarily the crowds, but we knew we would have presence. And that was more of what we were concerned about, presence. Because even if it was, 120 small marches, at least we did 120 small marches. But we knew we were going to have the presence. We didn't know we were going to have the size. But it was impressive.
Did you leave the rally in March? Or did you stay in DC?
Oh, God, no.
So you stayed at the rally?
Well, I stayed for the rally, and then for the march, I did part of it. Okay. I just went. I did it, and I cut down the street to go to. Because, it seemed like it was dragging on. And I will say that was probably another first time people putting a march together. They had no idea it was going to be this big. The intermediary entertainment, meaning at some point, if you're not entertaining the people, they're going to entertain themselves. Like, that is the truth. That is the truth. So the intermediate, and then once I couldn't really hear them, we moved around to another spot. So then we just started socializing. So then when people started marching, we kind of didn't even know the march had taken off, because it wasn't like, if you were you there? So it wasn't really on the street. I was by that museum. It was like a museum. It was a circular museum. Okay, so
the Native American Museum.
That explains it. I was about to say it was a bunch of Native American people. They were. I was saying to my best friend, I told Jenny, I was saying to my best friend, wow, that's so nice to get all these Native American people. That made a lot of sense. Yeah. But I ended up being in the Native American area for a while, but that put me on the other side of the stage. Yeah. Because the stage. So when the march took off, I didn't know they were going to try to turn the crowd around. And I'm glad I moved, because I would have been stuck at the back of the squished people. So by the time they turn the crowd around, I'm on the other side talking to the Indians and everybody else that show up. I'm over there doing chants. Girl, because I'm like, I can't hear these people. Now I'm bored. You know what I'm saying? I done met everybody around me. Let's go meet some new friends. Like,
there was a lot of that going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Where are you from?
Yes, exactly. So we were over there chatting with the Indians, and somebody said, oh, they're leaving. You said, what? They're leaving? So I am on the other side of the museum. They're leaving, and people are going this way. I said, I will go straight, and then I'll, kind of head them off. Yeah, so that's what we went. We kind of went straight, headed them off. And then when they got to, because I could tell when they got endless, meaning that whoever was in the lead really didn't, because that was, to me, another bad thing, the lack of signs to say stop point, end point. Yeah, but that's all experience. Yeah, that's all experience. But no, I said, I'm not going to get smushed today. So we're going around here, So me and another kind of group of people, we went to go cut them off. So we were in part of the march. But then I'm like, my hotel is right there. And I'm hungry. I'm like, you want to get something to eat? So then we sat down and we sat with another group of women. Ended up sitting in there talking for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then we're like, oh my God, what time is it? We're supposed to be marching. Go outside, can't find anybody. So we said, well, let's just go back to the hotel.
And then
got to the hotel, and I am like, oh my God. That's what, even Chantel, my best friend, she's not political in any way. She doesn't talk about politics. She's my best friend in the whole wide world now. She doesn't, with me participating, with my participation in the march, she would go out with me to hand out flyers, but she wouldn't, she just, if I ran out of flyers, she'd go back to the car to get some more. You need anything to drink? So she's a good support system. So when she was looking at TV and she was like, girl, I think I'm about to cry. I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, what do you mean? She was like, what do you mean? What do I mean? You did that. So that's when it kind of reminds me, I guess I'll say. But because we were able to be so isolated but together, doing everything on social media within our own time, emailing, only things that we really had to stop for were meetings. But then we're talking about being on the phone for 2 hours. We love that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So there was no torture involved. I'll say the hardest part was coming up with the ideas and pushing the execution of the ideas. But other than that, it was a bunch of ladies, passionately getting things together. We had a blast. I don't think you're going to meet many people that say we didn't have a good time. And then when we got a chance to be together, like at tables, that's when we would have those real conversations. When one of our hardest conversations, I'll say, probably was hard for her, was when we were planning the buses and, talking about raising money and picking out the demographic. And so, some of these white women who don't have any black friends or affluent black friends, they don't really know what black affluent people look like unless they see it on TV. So they're at a table, and even if you're black and affluent, you don't show up dressed like you're going to a Beyonce concert or a church every day. So you might show up in ripped up. You know what I'm saying? You're not assuming, because who needs to be? You're really just living your life. So we're at the table planning, and one of the white ladies, she goes, well, we just want to make sure that women of color can afford to get on the bus. And I said, well, we're not just going to put a bunch of poor black women on a bus, are we? Aren't we giving opportunities to all women who can't afford getting on the bus? And she's like, yeah, but we just need to pay special attention. And I said, do you realize that there are more poor white people in Georgia than there are poor black people in Georgia? And she was like, really? And I said, even at this table, do you realize that the black women sitting here probably have a good amount of money? So when we talk about black in Atlanta, it's a little different.
It is. A
little different. And I said, so we don't want to be offensive. What we want to make sure we cover is all the poor people, no matter what they color.
Do you think she was trying to overcompensate, I'm being sensitive to this? But
I think a part of I think a part of it was, I want to make sure they know I care, but mixed with ignorance. Because if you don't care about poor people, they don't need to be just black for you to care about them. But then you need to realize that your white counterparts, they need more of your help when we're just going to put out numbers, if you will. So she was like, okay. And I said, and then even when it comes to college students, they have access to money. They have parents. They spend more. Young people spend more without a job than grown people do with a job.
Yes, they do.
So I'm like, just be careful. Understand. But she's one of those, she from Alpharetta. Her neighborhood is probably all white. And she might see some black people at the grocery store who live in her neighborhood, and she has no idea their house costs more than theirs because they're dressed like me. I am like, lady.
But it's good that you have these conversations.
And I think for her, she was saying, she was like, I was talking to some of my friends, and I said, I had no idea with so many poor white people. Maybe we need to do something about that. No, you need to do something about all the poor people. See, not just the white poor people, but just understand when you're having that conversation that when you because it's class, it has nothing to do with race, and there are a lot of high class brown people in Georgia. So
seriously, in Georgia.
So you can't assume anything. And so she was like, okay. And then this same lady, when she met my husband, because if you see us together, we don't even really match. He's like whitey white. I joke him all the time. The Dockers, white people to me, they got a uniform, that golf shirt and them tan pants. Oh, they love them tan pants, honey. Oh my God. So he had on his little white boy uniform. And I don't know what I had on. I mean, sometimes I dress like a hooker. Sometimes, who knows? And so we're out, and then I think we were doing a fundraiser, and Stevie was getting stuff out the car. So she goes, "Can I help you, sir?" And he was like, "I'm with her," but he just pointed, "I'm with her." So then a little while later, I was doing something, and I said, "Babe," like I just called him babe nowhere. And when I said that, he was like, "Huh?" And then she looked. I'm like, "Can you go do so and so?" He's like, "All right." And I'm like, "Oh, for everybody, this is my husband." Just in case. So I think she kind of got my point without me even having to give her more history than economics can provide, if you will. Like, be careful. Please be careful.
This is a very good thing for her to have done. There's
Yeah, but I think that's a part of the issue. Mm-hmm. For the people that live in, I'll say more southern Georgia, the people that voted for Trump, most of them don't have black friends. I can almost guarantee that. I was born in Athens, and Athens is it's only 3 real true blue places here: Savannah, Athens, and Atlanta. And so, but Athens is just as country. Yeah. I mean, if you're not downtown, you're out in the boondocks. And that country mentality mixed with racism is a part of where that fear comes from too. Because country people, they don't go nowhere. They stay in their safe space. Yes, they do. Yeah. When you stay in your safe space and then you thinking that the black people coming to get you, that crazy fear. But yeah.
Are you as a group, the organizers, are you still meeting since you've come back?
The name of the Women's March Group for Georgia, it's now the Southern Activation Alliance.
And why did you change the name?
Well, it was a group, kind of like a group decision. One of the things that I was pushing when the march started is for us to have plans for after the march. And that's one reason why messaging didn't matter to me. Because if we don't have plans, and this is what I was saying, if we don't have plans for after the march, all we're doing is having a party. And so, and I knew that whatever they kind of did afterwards, I was going to be a helper, but not so much as a big player as what I was doing, because I have my own nonprofit. I have other, but I can definitely support. So with the Southern Activation Alliance, they've been thinking about names the whole time. They've been kind of thinking about the transition. And so now we're basically going to help other organizations do things like, get activated, if you will, whether that's boots on the ground, phone calls, things like that.
That's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was the important thing to see is like, this is the beginning.
Exactly.
This is not
the end.
Just a moment.
Exactly.
It actually has to be a catalyst for moving forward.
And I kind of came up with my own after plans.
And what were those?
Yeah, it's synonymous with the march, but it's something just on my intellectual side, me kind of seeing a void of something, that's what I started. I started a civic recognition organization where people get recognized for doing civic duties. And that's what I was saying earlier. We do community service. I grew up learning about community service, but I did not grow up learning about civic service. And so I started the International Women Marchers, and we're going to have a civic recognition program, and we're going to have a town hall monitor program.
Fantastic. Yeah. What's that going to look like?
I'm glad you asked.
Segueing
in. So a part of where my idea came from, just to give the full story, is at the same time I was doing this, I was in a beauty pageant. I still am in a beauty pageant. I just didn't win. But I am Mrs. DeKalb County. And being in that pageant, what I realized personally is that I like pageantry, but I'm not necessarily into pageants, if you will. And that is a part of why I enjoy the military so much. We do a lot of pageantry in the military, from playing the music, wearing the uniform, getting the accolades and all that stuff. So the combination of the two, me being in a pageant and then doing this march and writing a book, I realized that when it comes to civic activity, I don't know how much I learned in high school, and I'm 46. And so that's 30 years of not knowing how much people have learned about civics. 3 generations. So in me kind of absorbing all of that, what did I want to do after the march? What I want to do is galvanize these women to start participating in civic duty the same way they participate in community service. Because we need this portion to happen so we don't have to be marching for another 240 years to get our rights. So in doing that, I created sashes for the marchers, and this pays homage to the suffragettes in the original march because they actually wore sashes. And with the sashes, I created different labels. And so this would be just a regular marcher, someone who doesn't necessarily want to be involved, but they're just going to show up no matter the cause. The hats are hot. You can wear this over your coat. You can wear it over whatever you're doing. Nice and lightweight. And this is an example of the town hall monitor for people who go to town halls already, for them to just report back to us and let us know attendance, things like that. And junior marcher for the young kids, and then a supporter for if you're not a woman but you support a woman and what she's doing. And then for the international marchers, because we do march all over the world. If you're not in America, you still can participate because marching changes things worldwide. And so what the program does is I have a list of civic duties that you can get pins for. Things like voting early, going to town halls, of course, going to school board meetings, participating in a march, a sit-in, a die-in, making an appointment with your congressman, a personal appointment, things like that. So you can get pins to put on your sash and be rewarded for doing civic activities.
That's great.
So this is what I came up with after the march.
Great. I think it's very important that people actually look beyond themselves and look at how they can.
Yes, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We're not here for ourselves. Yeah. If we were here for ourselves, then we would be able to be self-sustained. Yeah. We can't be self-sustained because we have to get meat from cows. We have to get bricks from brick makers. We can't make babies by ourselves. So we're not here just for ourselves. Yeah.
Looking back over, I want to move forward and talk about this recent march that we had this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back on the Women's March, what lessons do you take from that moving forward? What worked and what didn't work? How would you organize, like now? Yes. Like based on your experiences.
A part of what, and mind you, we didn't have to do the permitting, the setting up the speakers. We didn't have to do the logistics of DC, but the logistics of moving people from one space to another. A part of what I say didn't work, I'll start with it didn't work, is we had to fight mindsets to kind of get to an understanding of how we can best message things, and it ended up that we needed no message. So that took weeks. And what didn't work is some of our leaders were not chosen. They were volunteers, and so they were learning their leadership skills. And so just the patience of allowing a leader to learn, that was I won't say a big issue, but that came up. Financial, most of the women that were planning this didn't have money. So even getting them to understand how planning works when you don't have money, that was a hurdle. And then the ones who were affluent, getting them to kind of understand that privilege is only good when you're humble. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's a nice week.
Yeah, so those were some of the hurdles. But the good thing is we had conversations. We didn't have any knockdown, drag out, arguments or whatever. We were able to work everything out with conversations, and so and those being bad things, I don't think those were bad, because once we got the messaging right that we didn't need a message, then things took off, once we worked those things out, and the good things were that I got to meet a bunch of people I never knew before, and then us coming together with like minds and realizing when it was over that when you work together you really can you can make a dream real. Yeah, like that was some of the exciting pieces of it.
So since you've gotten back from DC, tell me what you've been up to.
Oh, well, just a part of other than creating a whole organization, but I organized a tax march. I was one of the co-organizers for the tax march. And we got between 300 and 500 people to come out, worldwide march, over 200 cities, I think. We ended up being in over 200 cities. And with organizing the tax march, this time we did from A to Z. So permitting all the way to inviting and organizing where we were going to be at, to the march route, to what we're going to do while we're there.
Can you talk about the why you chose the route that you chose
for the tax march? I like circles. I just don't understand. I don't like it. I'll just say that. When I go on a march or a 4K walk or a bike ride and I park in one place and then I end and my car is 10 miles away, I don't like that. So I will still participate and I will complain about it because I'm still gonna not like that when I participate. Yeah. So anything that I organize, I'm going to think of things like that because I feel like that is convenient, that's logical. You just kind of when you're talking about putting a puzzle together to allow people to come back to where they came from. So that was all me.
So why did you choose Central Park as the place to
Central Park? Because Centennial Park, I think they lied, but I got to double check, and I am going to double check. I'm going to call them today because Central Park said they were going to be closed. But a church group had their Easter egg hunt. I heard on the radio. I was here this morning, so I'm going to call them. I might even drive down there. So I'm going to find out how the church group got to do their Easter egg hunt on Sunday at Centennial when they told me the park was going to be closed. But if Centennial Park was open, it would have been Centennial Park, okay. And we still would have did a circle. Yeah. But it wasn't, and Central Park was the next largest, closest park.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm. How very few people have to go permit a march. What's the process?
The process, it is filling out a bunch of paperwork, basically, and it's really more of the city. They laughed at me because the guy was like, I typed my entire permit up because you can either type it up or fill it in, but I typed it up because I didn't want any problems with my handwriting. And every place is separate. So the location you're going to do it at, you have to contact the district congressman in that place and let them know. You have to contact the people, MPU, that's noise. You have to let them know whether you're going to have a stage, speakers, what kind of speakers, if you're going to have tables, chairs, you're going to have food, or you're going to have, so you have to answer all of these details about what you're going to do. And so the more things you're going to have, the more things you have to get permitted. One of the things that we chose was a mobile stage. and the mobile stage only costs $350, and you don't have to have a permit for it. But if I would have gotten a stage where you put the stage out yourself, if the stage is over 8 by 12, you have to get a permit for it. So
I've learned some new stuff today.
Exactly. So those, I was trying to not permit as much stuff as possible. So even when it comes to, if you're going to have food, if you're going to cook food on site, that has to be permitted. But if you're going to have food trucks, the food trucks have to get permits. And that was another. And then the amount of people drives everything else. And it's your estimated amount of people. Like I did an estimate for 5,000 people, which costs way more for the 500 that we had. But the estimate drives how many water stations do you have to set up, how many ambulances, first aid tents, ambulance bike riders do you have to have, how many police officers do you have to have, are you going to block the streets, are you going to do rolling street closures. We did rolling street closures, way cheaper to do rolling street closures. And when you have if you have under 2,000 people, once they all kind of fill out, I think what he said was every 1,000 people is a half a mile, or something like that, a half or a quarter of a mile. So every 1,000 people, so once they all line up. So you want your route to be based on the length, because you don't want them to overlap, one, but you have to walk the people enough. If you don't walk them enough, they'll still want to walk somewhere after the march. So you have to go over 2 miles. Like this, so,
it's pretty scientific.
Yes, I mean, it's a lot that goes into it, but I think that it's more, if you plan it first before you fill out the permit, you're fine. But the permit is going to make you think about every single solitary detail, even when it comes down to signs. So with the signage, where are you going to have your signs? Are you going to do yard signs, or are you going to affix them to poles? And you have to have signs that are going to get directional signs. But then you also have to have signs that say, like, here's the ambulance, here's the water tent, here's this. And for the trash, the city will tell you how many porta potties and trash receptacles you need, but it's still up to you to go back and clean up afterwards. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's not, to me, the permitting wasn't even hard. They were nice. I mean, but I called them like every other day. By the time we got to the end, I say, hi, this is we know Marie-Antoinette from the Tax March. Well, I'm like, hey, I figure if I call you all the time, the thing that you can't say is that I didn't communicate with you. Yeah. So anytime I'm on the phone, you got the opportunity to fill me in on anything I need to know, even if that's please stop calling us.
And did you find the police officers that were?
Oh, they were lovely. They were lovely. Yes.
Because I went on the march. Mm-hmm. We found them quite delightful.
Oh yes. Sergeant Prescott. He was our main lead, and him and I mean, we talked back and forth. We talked through the route. He even helped to kind of suggest, where to go and where to turn and how to map things out. So they were very helpful, very helpful.
That's great. What did you learn from the tax march then for moving forward?
What I learned from the tax march is get a bigger committee. That's what I learned. And I learned that from the comparison of working on the tax march versus the science march. Now, I do understand that the science march is based off of Earth Day, and those people are scientists. So scientists are used to a meeting, but I think with a larger committee, I may have had a chance to sweep up a larger pool of skills and talents, and because these were just regular people we had. These were just regular people that were pissed off and heard about the tax march and was like, I am in. So even the guy who did our website, he wasn't a website designer, but he knows how to do graphics, and he said, I'll try.
But isn't that the beauty of grassroots organizing?
Exactly.
You try. Yes, that's the important thing.
Exactly.
So are you involved in the science march moving forward?
No, not involved in this. I'm going to go because they're my compadres. Yeah, I'm going to go. I'll be there Saturday.
And then there's a march or a protest the following weekend.
The 29th, because the NRA is coming to town.
Are you planning to attend that?
Oh, I'm going to attend that for sure. I'm actually, when I leave here today, I'm going to call to see, because we're supposed to do a couple of things, unplanned but planned things. And so I'm going to call to check on those. We call them code red items.
How do you not get burned out with all of this activity? I'm energetic one, but when I'm passionate about something, it moves me. If I'm passionate about something, I can't sleep. Like, I will dream about it. I mean, like my nonprofit organization, literally went to sleep, and I went to sleep thinking, what am I going to do with my kid? So dangerous, and dreamed it up. And woke up the next day and maybe didn't sleep for 2 or 3 days until it was on paper and ready to go, ready for the next step. I learned how to build websites just so I could build my first website for my nonprofit organization. That's a part of what I was up all night doing. On a serious note, I think this is something that is concerning a lot of us who plan to protest. Mm-hmm. There are moves by various, I think it's state governments, to try outlaw protesting. How do you talk about how you feel about that?
Well, I feel like that is against the Constitution. So what I would like for them to do is I double dog dare them to try to take away my constitutional right. That's what I say. Do it. Based
on the positive experience you had with the city of Atlanta and the police officers in Atlanta.
Right.
Do you think that's something that in Georgia they're going to want to enforce that kind of thing?
What I feel like is Atlanta is the birthplace for civil rights. We protest here in Atlanta just so we could vote. I double dog dare them. The ACLU will be all over this. We will be marching and protesting just because. I dare them.
It's an interesting time that this is even coming up.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Now, and this is the thing, anybody can protest. This is because it's our constitutional right. Now, there are already rules on the books now. So I don't know if their intention is to try to change the protesting rules, and the rules are about safety. They're not about telling us we can't protest. You can protest on any public sidewalk. Mm-hmm. So I'm really not sure how, what I'm saying, and this is I am a disabled veteran. I wish they would. I kind of want to dare them just for the challenge.
I could see you right.
Oh, I mean it. That's what I used to say to my kids. Oh, I wish you would. I double dog dare. I'm going to walk out the room just so you can do it. I dare you. I dare you.
Talking about your kids and your husband, how have they been? Have they been very supportive?
Oh, yes. Yes. I have the best supportive children in the world. I cannot. My son, he came home from Puerto Rico because I was, doing some things with the march to help me, just kind of organize that, because I did an after party for the march. So he came home to literally just kind of help me, carry bags, and he did the door for me. He literally was like, "Mom, I'm so proud of you. I'm coming home." And my daughter, she's 20, and she's still kind of selfish. However, she does say that she's proud, but she's not as actively showing her proudness as her brother. But she does, literally say out of her mouth, "Mom, I'm so proud of you." But I know what I'm doing is for her right now, but she's not going to get it right now. And I'm well aware of that. So it's, as long as she'll say, "Mom, you're so proud of you," I just take that. But I know when she gets older, that when history kind of brings itself forward, that she'll be like, "That was my mom out there."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my daughter, she's the princess of texting. I'm the queen of texting with the nonprofit. Yeah, she's been on TV and went to schools, and so my kids understand community service, but this idea of civic service is what I'm going to have to, because I would love for us to realize that that's what we're doing. That it's not just protesting. Like, these are our civic duties. This is not just new. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I did just wake up to it, but I do know it's not new.
Yeah. What about your husband?
Oh, he's the same. Yeah, he's the same.
Is he going on any marches with you?
Well, he's not necessarily a marcher type, but he will carry all the bags, all the boxes. He'll watch everything till I get back. He'll pay for shit. I mean, he'll like, how much money you need, baby? He'll drive me down there, you know what I'm saying? You look good, and fix your hair, you know.
That's great.
Yeah, he is a good background supporter. I mean, the best background supporter.
And you need them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Looking at, it's like we're in April now. It's like middle of April.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a few months into this administration. What's your feeling about the way things have gone for this particular
Oh, it's
administration?
horrible. It's horrible. Their ideas are horrible, though. So, I mean, we have no choice. I feel like for the next 3 years, we have no choice. I mean, the guy started out with a Muslim ban. We have no choice. We have no choice. No choice. He is not for us. He is not even for them poor white people who voted for him. So I'm even standing up for their dumbasses.
What is your hope that what would you like to see happening in the next, say, year
or so? Well, this is what I would really like, and this may seem a little dark, but I want him to have a looming impeachment for the last 2 years of his presidency and walk out of that White House knowing that he was the worst president that ever walked this planet Earth. And after that, we take care of that by voting. I don't want him to get impeached early because I don't want Pence there. I want to harass his ass like none other for the next. I want to harass him worse than the way they harassed President Obama. I want him to feel the heat.
What would be your greatest fear with this administration?
I don't really fear anything they do.
Okay.
Nothing, because I fought for this country. So, and we vote. So his countdown clock is already ticking. So I'm not fear. I feel I double dog dare them. Anything they want to do, anything that you ask for, we coming. Period. And that's how because he doesn't realize he works for us. And that to me, that's the horrible part about a businessman being in charge, because it's not a civil servant. That's not somebody who does community things. It's not the same mindset. Businesses are about making money, and people are just numbers in businesses. So he can take that business mentality somewhere else and stuff it up them white people's ass that voted for him. What I don't want him to do is start a war, but I mean, wars are going to happen. I know that. That is why we have a military, and I know we're going to win because we are the best. But I would prefer that we not go to war over dumbness. If we're going to go to war, I want it to be something that we really need to be fighting for. But even if he does send us a war, we will even protest that. Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to be on his ass like white on rice. I don't want him to get impeached, though, unless he gets impeached his last 30 days. Because I don't want Pence. But I want him to know that we don't like him.
I think he's
yes.
hearing that.
Yeah, that's what I want him to know.
What do you think about the fact that even over the weekend, for all the people who marched for the tax marches, he's like still saying these are paper.
I responded to that. I said, meet Lauren and Marie. We were the organizers in Atlanta. I responded on his Twitter page at the real Donald Trump and POTUS. Meet Lauren and Marie. But that's what I'm saying. That's why we can't let up. That's why we can't let up.
How then, because we are going to have to be very active.
Right.
How do we, moving forward over the next
3
upcoming
years,
months,
3.5
many
years.
upcoming months,
right?
How do we not burn out? How do we keep going?
Well, I think a part of the way is the people, you just find out what you're passionate about. Whatever your cause is, you don't need to go to all the marches, but whatever you're passionate about, show up for that one. That would be my best advice, because we're going to have to show up. And I think people are, I really feel like it's not going to go burn out, because most of the people I talk to, they say the same things that I say. They're like, we don't have a choice for the next 3 years. So I don't really, now I see a burnout in the lay people, in the people who kind of get into it for the excitement. But those are the people that I call participants. Like in life, we need participants. We need, we need passive people. Those are my passive people. We need participants, and then we need provocateurs. Our passive people are going to be the people that hear about a march. They pass by a sign. They say, oh, I'm going to go to that march. Those will be our passive people. The participants will be organizing. And the provocateurs like me will be coming up with new ways to do it. And so we need all three. I mean, my husband is really, he's passive about it. He's a participant when I'm giving him directions. But if I'm not giving him directions, he's really passive about it. He'll say, oh, this is happening. He'll remember to tell me, but he ain't going unless I'm going, because he's really passive like that. But we need all three of them. And so the first two tiers, as long as they are passionate, their passion will drive the other people, because they're just going to show up to participate anyway. They're going to be passive about their attendance, if you will.
We're almost at the end, but I want you to talk about your book.
Okay.
Tell me about your book.
My book is
what it's called.
It's the fifth wave of the feminist movement, the Coochie Power Era 5.0, and I am naming the fifth wave of feminism the Coochie Power Era because I do feel like this is the real era that's going to bring women together. And the reason why I say bring women together is because yes, we did the Women's March. Yes, we can come together, but there are internal problems when it comes to women. And I have just kind of through doing the research, in conversation and asking people, but just through the history, the first wave of feminists, they were the suffragettes. They started out with some of our greats like Susan B. Anthony and
Alice Paul.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the black lady.
I
can see Sojourner Truth.
Yes.
So it started off with people like Sojourner Truth, but what happened was the white women realized that they could get the right to vote earlier if they dumped the black women, and that's what they did. And when they dumped the black women, we hated their asses, and we didn't get the right to vote until the Civil Rights Movement, which was 40 years later. And white women said, oh, we'll help y'all get the right to vote with the Civil Rights Movement, but in their minds, maybe, I'm just speaking historically, in their minds that may have seemed like a way to make up for it, but hell to the no. So when it comes to the feminist movement, it's been a sense of anger since the first wave. And so the first wave was just about getting rights, just getting the right to do whatever. The second wave was more about things like the women of color and having that type of conversation involved in rights. The third wave was more of gays, the whole conversation about being bisexual and more of sexuality, women wearing less clothes. And even in this wave, the first wave of women, even though they were dead, the spirit of them and their children are against the women who want to be sexy and the gays. You know what I'm saying? So then that brings us into the fourth wave. And the fourth wave is the technology wave, which is that voice of we can organize any way we want to, we can say anything we want to, and there is no dirty laundry. This is the youth millennial wave. And of course, the first wave in there, they don't like them either because they just talk too much and they wow. So the fifth wave, what I'm hoping is that we can have a real reconciliation, if you will, of women realizing that we come in different flavors, shapes, and sizes, and we come with different stories and experiences. So that doesn't mean that your experience is better or less or worse than mine, but being able to see that mine is different is important. So that's what I'm hoping to do with the fifth wave. So what I do in my book is highlight the 21 women who, had they not spoken up, showed up, and did what they did, that we would not have the privileges that we have now. So I talk about the first transgender in the military, the first black woman to run for president, the first, I just go over all of the first, basically. Like the first, I did everything. The first woman to talk about rape, Elizabeth Stanton, the first woman to defend our right to not have kids. All of those things, if those women had not stood up, they were, to me, the most pivotal things that got us to where we are. Miss Lovely, she loved a white man. I had to put her in there. Racial relationships. But yeah, so I talked about all those first women who stepped out on that plank for us.
You must have had to do a lot of research for this.
Yes. I like to read, though.
Yeah,
I'm a reader.
So how did you select, what firsts you were going to include?
I thought about things that, with Miss Loving, for one. Her choosing to marry outside of her race, that was a pivotal thing, because people could get married, yes, but guess what they couldn't do? Marry who they wanted to marry. So to me, that was one of those big firsts. Elizabeth Stanton, her going to jail to make sure we can get birth control. If she had not fought that fight, we're still fighting it now, but just in a different way. But women, we still wouldn't have control over our families. We still wouldn't have. I put Hillary Clinton in there, of course, and Chisholm, the first black woman, because those things are pivotal. The first transgender to be in the military. Whoever knew it, right? And she won honors. So those are the things that, to me, those next frontiers. We're here, but we're kind of not over the hurdle. We're kind of right a little bit. We're at the snow cap of the mountaintop, and that's what I wanted to point out. If it weren't for those type first, let's have these conversations. It'll help us get to that next phase.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you did this. And I'm glad that we have a copy now of our collection. What do you see your world looking like in the next couple of years?
We're still gonna be fighting in the next couple of years. So
what are you going to be participating in?
I'm going to be pushing my International Women's Marchers. I'm in the process of writing a proclamation to say that August 18th will be the official International Women's Marchers Day, and August 15th is the day that the right to vote was ratified originally. And I'm planning to do a sash flash mob that day. And it's on a Friday, because I want people to be at work and wear their sashes to work at 1 o'clock. Put your sash on. But a sash flash mob that Friday the 18th, and then on Saturday. I'm thinking about maybe organizing a march or something just to kind of kick it off. But kick off the uniform. I call this our honor shields. But I'm going to be pushing this program, and I'm definitely going to support, any of the things. I'm on the board for the Alliance for Social Justice. I'm on their Women of Color board, so I'll be pushing those type things. And then Gaetana, she was a part of the Women of Color group with the Women's March. She started She Conversations, and they're going to be conversations about race for women. And so these are some of the next things that I'm moving into.
And where can we, as the people who are not the agitators, not that but we want to be involved, where do we find information about all of that?
About all this? Well, this is not out yet. This is the exclusive. But we're going to have a website, Women's Marchers or International Women's Marchers, and I'm on Facebook. I'm Coochie Power on Facebook, or Marie-Antoinette. If you Google Marie-Antoinette Tichler, only a few people come up, and I'm one of them. And I'm also the American Marie-Antoinette. Yeah. Got to appreciate that, right?
Just thought about that.
Right.
Well, I think I've got to the end of my questions. Do you have anything else you want to say? Is there anything I haven't asked you?
No. Thank you so much for doing this.
I really appreciate you coming to talk. You're very inspirational.
Oh, you're so sweet.